Welcome to Trading Lounge and the Australian report, and we're going to take a little bit of a tour around the other indices first and try and get a sort of general sense of what's sort of happening. And we know that most of the indices around the world are in the same count, in that we are looking for wave 3 top here in the indices, and obviously different countries can be doing different things, and in the US here we're looking for a top to come into play here. In the European markets, we've already got this wave 3 in here, and we're already sort of looking towards the downside. So this top here, if we look at it on the 4-hour chart here, just to drill in a little bit, so from this wave 4 here, we've got wave 1 and 2 here, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 1 and 2 here, then up for the third and back for the fourth, and up for the fifth for the third here, an A and a B and a C for the fourth here on this spike, and then we're looking for one more move up to the up above this top here, which we've got in play now. It does appear that we can have this sort of locked in here. I don't have a nice clear 5 waves to the downside just yet here, and I'm a little bit unsure about the top in the Nasdaq as well. This number here is really quite important, the midpoint 50. Little 65 number, won't go into too much, but we can see that that's the retested resistance. So on the short side here is the go. Now this is this market's covered. The banks are one of the drivers in this particular market. So when I look at, so if I go here on the, just go to the 1-hour chart first and have a little look here. So this move down here has sort of bothered me a little bit. I can see that this is corrective in here, and we'll move down. We've got a sort of a short little thing here. But from this low here to this high here, this is still the 50 and the 60% retracement level. So I'd feel a bit happier if we were locked under the 2630 in this particular case, and we can get a nice 5 waves down here. On the tick chart here with this as well, this is sort of where I was looking at. I can count 5 waves moving up to this point here, but when I look at this move here, I'm not kind of convinced that it's an impulse wave to the downside. It's got all the right things for a short trade because it's moved through here, then it's basically retested this important price point here, and then moving down from that point. But when I look at some of the banks, if I look at Morgan's, for instance, just let me get the tick chart for that. Just bring this across here. With Morgan's, for example, it's a little bit rough and ready, but we've basically got wave 1 and 2 in here, and a third wave up here. So this can still, all of this mess here can still be a 4th wave, with a 5th wave to move up higher through here. So that's pretty much what the banks are looking at. So in some of the instances, some of the drivers for the S&P are not completed to the upside as such just yet. So I am curious about this here, and also too when I look at the Nasdaq here as well. I don't. This has always been my count here for the Nasdaq. It's just not finished to the upside here as yet. It could be, but the move down through here so far still counts as an A and a B and a C wave here. If this low gets taken out here, then we can look to short at that point there. But otherwise I would need to look at this as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 still to move up to this level up here. But at the same time, we need to look for the shorts in case I've got this wrong. But the bank is telling me we're going up. This appears to tell me that we're going up here. But at the same time, we need a plan B, and shorting this low would bring that into play. Now, going over to the European markets, they also have an effect on the Australian market as well. I mean, the Australian market's really made up of the materials sector and the finance sector, with the finance sector weighted towards the ASX 200 more than the other guys. In this case here, on the DAX here, we've got wave 3 top already in play here. and we were looking at the first move down here as being an impulse wave here, and we could see that all of this move in here was corrective, so we can call that wave B, and then we'll look down for wave C here. One of the little problems within here, if I can just go maybe to the hourly chart here, if that takes it up. One of the things that I spoke about last time on the chart here is that we've got wave B in here. It was possible that that all of this from this A wave here, all of this across here, this move down here appears it looks like it's actually a B wave here. It's a bit messy, so I've had it as a B wave here. If that is the case, then we would see another move up into this space, into these highs here, and having wave B over here as a wave C here, basically. So I'm not sure about that at the moment. I knew that we would either be going up to this point here and folding and coming back down, or we'll be going higher up through here. So what we can look for in this instance here, because this is really what we're looking for, short trades. We just don't know if we're going to get them yet. So normally we would come down, get a bounce off this, and then come through here and then check back. So so when we get that reference point low there, then we can put that in here, and if we got that reference point low, if it moves through at that point, then we can move through there. So that's what we'll be looking for here, into looking at the short trade through here. The UK markets can also be the same, much the same as the Australian market as well. And with this market here, we've also got wave 3 and up here, and we're looking down at wave A or wave 1, wave A and wave B, and then we're looking down further for this market. So this market's been a little bit sort of rough in its count as well, but I've been looking at this as wave 1, and last time we spoke we were off this 7.3 here. We were looking for an A and a B and a C. Didn't quite come as high as the 50 and the 61.8% mark, but it's faded at this point here now. This is just a little technicality. This has got 5 waves in it, like a C wave should, but at the same time, it's 5 waves and it's pushing to the upside. So it's possible that this could be a wave 1 here and coming back for a wave 2 here. So far in here, we've got this as an ABC in here, but I would need to see 5 waves in here. If I can see 5 waves in here coming down here, then we'll get 3 waves here, and then we'll be on our way down here further. But I do need to see this 5 waves down here for the next bounce off here, and then we can look to short again through here. So this is not quite confirmed yet, but you know, the weight of it is confirming it further to the downside. You know, I like my numbers, and this level here is 7.3, so this is a retested resistance here. I'm saying all of this because this will have some influence globally on the Australian market as well, with all of these. So it's kind of nice to know where they are as such, you know. When we look at the Australian sectors, for instance, this is the MMX. This is the mining sector as such here as well. This little move down through here still feels corrective here. It still feels like it's 1 and 2 and 3 here, so an ABC here. And this looks like a little impulse wave up, and this looks like a corrective wave down. So this can still make a new high here in the material sector, but probably only in the bigger stocks, because if I look at the small caps and the mid caps, for example, let's just go to the small caps for a start here. So with the small caps here, without getting into the wave count, we know that every trend of whatever degree that we're talking about, be it, you know, minuscule or you know, super cycle, they all have a beginning, a middle and an end, and they've all got the same sort of, you know, look about them. So you have the beginning here, the middle, which is always the most powerful part, and then you can start to see, well, this length here is quite long, then this one here is shorter, isn't it? It's shorter than this one here, and then this one here is actually shorter than this one here. So it was strong here, and then this is a sign of weakness and weakness here. So it is in a topping process here on the small caps, because they were one of the strongest, remember, and then the mid cap wasn't far behind them either. So the mid cap here in this trend moving up through here is also tiring as well up here. This little point here looks corrective, and even from here I think we've still got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So basically what I'm saying is that the metals can still go higher. As such, we know that the banking's weak. We know that the top 20 stocks are, are weak as well. So I'm going to show this picture here, which is it's a sector called the XTL, and it's the top 20. Now, in a lot of cases, this, like in the banking sector, for instance, we've had this move down here, and then this move here, and then this move coming down through here, taking out this low here. So the top 20 stocks are showing this kind of weakness, and this also shows up in the financial sector as well. This is the XFJ here, so it's actually moved down quite a lot. But when we have a look at the ASX 200 here, for example, it's still high, it's still up here. It hasn't actually broken these lows here. So we've got the mining holding this structure up here. We know that the finance sector has broken this low here, and the top 20 have broken this low. The mid caps are still haven't broken low. I know the small caps, which won't be in here. Some of the mid caps, you know, always ducking and diving into the ASX 200 or not. And excuse me, then I had to pause the video. I got interrupted. But picking back up on that line of thought here is that you know, when I look at the Nasdaq has still got a higher move to come into play here, and our mining stocks can still come into play. If I look at the European indices, then we've got an intermediate wave 3 in this space here at the moment, which would have us having the same here as well here, and then we would be looking for a move coming lower back down into this space down here. So yeah, I mean, we've got you know, just it's a little bit sort of it's a little bit tricky, because this is all a little bit messy in this space here. But look, I think that we need to look at being short at this stage, and I've with the Australian markets, the Australian stocks, I have been, you know, reducing our long positions and starting to try and put a few shorts in there, and yeah, and just tighten things up and sort of prepare for the turn a little bit. So coming back to the Australian market here on the ASX 200 here, this was the situation that I've had here. I was never quite sure. Looking at all the different sectors, I was getting different information in this section down here. I was never quite sure if I should put the wave 4 here or put it over here on this one here. I know that I've got 5 waves from this little structure here. In here is 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5 in here. So it's quite possible for me to have, you know, this wave 3 sitting on here and having this wave 4 here. So we know that this low here has been breached in the finance sector. We know that the small caps and the mid caps and so on and so on are just about topping out now. So the other point here too is that we can see that, you know, we wouldn't take long trades here, because if we're going to take long trades, we'd want to be sitting above here. We would want to be sitting on top of the 6,000. And, you know, for trading, you always need to be on the right side at the right time. Now, you know, what the heck does that mean? Well, for me, it means that, you know, being on the right side at the right time. If I was going to be long, then I need them. I look to the closest, largest number, and then I need to be, you know, I need to be on the right side of that. And I have to ask myself if it's got support. So there's no support here at the moment. It's basically the 6,000 here is being rejected. This old high here is testing the supply, the sellers. That, you know, lack of buyers could have been the top here. It could have been sellers coming in here. A bit of both, all of those sorts of things. But we're certainly on this side of the fence at the moment. So if I go to the hourly chart here, is that enough? Yeah. So with the hourly chart here, I've been looking at it the same as the European markets for since last week or whatever. So having this wave 3 in here, this could also be wave 1 as well here, but as a wave A here, but I don't think it's a case, because if it was wave 1, well then wave 2 would have been less time consuming than wave 1 here, but you can see that wave B has been more time consuming than this move here, so it's logical to put it as an A and a B wave here. In this here, we'd also been looking at this as wave 1 here and wave 2 here in this case, and we would be long above being on the 6,000 here. That's what we'd be looking at. So we can kind of remove that a little bit. I'll just put that over here a little bit. So in this instance here, a lot of this is not really clear in here. In fact, this wave 2 could actually go into this space here as well, and I'll just save that, but I'm not quite sure about that instance here as well. So obviously we need to be on the short side here. There's a couple of things that that we've been looking at with all of this, and one of the things was that obviously the 6,000 is important. Then we got group 2, and then inside of group 2 here, I really normally pin out the 5972 here, the 72 number within group 2. So we can see that this market has come down in little 5 waves here as wave 1 and back for wave 2 here. So I mean, it's hindsight now, but that there, that low would have been a reference point here, and also too, the 65 here would be a reference point. So that one under here, because it's retested that here and then it's moved down lower here. But we'll get the same thing here as well. So we'll get this at point here, will be some sort of reference point in here, and then there'll be a strong bounce off the 30 here. So be mindful of that. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are with everything. There's just one other thing that that sort of bugged me a little bit too on the positive side. If I can go back to the sectors here and go into the telecommunications area here. I won't go into the huge big picture of it, but normally this is normally, Telstra can be used as a hedge against the other, the rest of the sector, because normally they look for safety going for that. But I can see here, say from this top here, we can look at this as wave 1 down here and wave 2 here, then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 here. So I'm looking at this as an A and a B and a C wave here. So taking this top, whoops-a-daisy, wrong. This top here is a wave 3 coming down here. This move here going back to the 38.2 or the wave 4 1 smaller degree here. And then if that's the case, then this will move down into another move down through here like this here. So I'm wondering, while this on the daily chart here is pushing up here, we're seeing the ASX move down from this point. And but if this is going to top and turn here and then move down here, then we'll probably see that rally that we're looking for in the DAX, and that could make the ASX rally as well as such. So this is just another little junction, something else that's sort of bugging me a little bit, that we'll need to work through all of this as well here. So it will be this also this move here. Remember that on the banking sector and the top 20 stocks, this move down here has taken this low out here. So normally what we can also look at as well is the length of this structure here, coming over here, copying this here, down to here. So this is where the big bounce is. This is, if there's any bounce going to come into play, this is where it's going to come from. So this also means that this is our target area here in the first instance as well. So this is what we'll be looking for. And we'll look at the structure as it gets to this point here, and along the way, of course, we'll need to see the midpoint 50 become the retested resistance, and also the 30 here as well. You're going to get a strong bounce off that. They're the two things that you going to need to hold through in this case as well. So just be mindful of that, and of course old trend lines come into play as well. All right, I've rabbited on long enough. I just kind of wanted to sort of bring everything together a little bit for the Australian market. All right, cheers.